Are you thinking independence gone and you still need some economic empowerment? Wondering what the government's agenda got to do to help you out? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Senator Quinton C. Lightbourne got to say of how we can tap into the opportunities of the Blueprint for Change. Join our co-sponsors, Domdev Enterprises and Page Investment, and our friends at Something to Think About. Post your questions, any comments you have, and we'll endeavor to answer them. And we'll be right back.
Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. And what we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 242. This evening we have the Honorable Senator Quinton C. Lightbourne. And he's here this evening to help us understand what we're going to do as we look for that economic empowerment and how we can address that through the government of the day. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and thank you for still joining us. I know you're having some challenges with power in your neighborhood and so forth, but hopefully we'll come back on shortly and you'll be able to, we'll see you soon, live
Definitely.
in living color. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, you were born Bahamian, a Blue Wave, that's St. Anne's High School, and graduate, and also Lincoln University graduate with honors. So between there, you would have been the Bahamas Union of Students president. I think it was 205 to 206, and then you would also achieve a Bachelor's of Science in Finance and a minor in accounting. And you also indicates that you are an executive treasurer of the would have been COB then, the College of the Bahamas' Student Union Association, and a past president of a Lincoln chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And that's a lot of stuff you got on the agenda there on your resume.
Yes, sir.
Good. And one big one there would have been that you also, when you returned home and got into the work world, you worked for Credit Suisse in terms of wealth management department and the operations and fund analysis. So I think you're more than qualified to help us walk through what we would need to talk about tonight. So
yes, sir.
This weekend we celebrated Independence Day. Some 49 years ago, July 9th, 1973, thousands of us obediently adorned Clifford Park as colonial British subjects. Many of my youth were reluctant, but at that glorious moment when the Union Jack came down and our flag was slowly hoisted to the top, and when it got to the apex exactly at 12 midnight, God sent a breeze that opened up our pretty flag into its full splendor. That experience and that moment threw chills through my body, which I still feel sometimes today. Senator, you would have been born after Independence Day, and so you would have missed that experience. But tell us, what does independence mean to you today?
Well, that's a great question, Mr. Knowles. Independence to me means so many things. As a Bahamian born, post-independence, I always got a sense of pride to know that I'm Bahamian. Whenever I traveled, whenever I went off to school, it just gave me a sense of purpose that I have a country that I want to help and continuously build, And so for me, being a Bahamian is a culmination of so different things, culturally, socially, academically. It gives me a purpose itself as an individual to push forward, because I feel as if I try to represent my country in everything that I do. not just in a political sense, but in a personal sense as well.
Awesome. And so, with that knowledge, then, and we looked at the flag being the black of the triangle was pointed to the center, the tip pointing to the center, representing the strength of the people, the aquamarine representing at the top and the bottom representing the protective shallow waters around us, and then the gold representing the natural resources, sun, and the empowerment for us as a people. We said then we are now Bahamians with that identity to be flying high for us, a sovereign country, a nation of people to strive to uphold the domestic sovereign nation founded on the spiritual values and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone. Much pride. And so when we look at that, we say no man, no woman shall be a slave to bondsman because we want to know that governments have three major areas in the political, the economic, and the social. Politically, we become equal in majority rule. And then socially, over the last 49 years, we've been growing in leaps and bounds in that, even though we might be going backwards sometimes and going forward. But then economically, it seems like we are far from being emancipated economically. What, in your mindset, not having the good fortunes of the past, would you say would be needed most importantly to move us forward economically?
Well, that's a very good question. For me, I look at it, I've been taught, from when I was a young child, that there was a social movement in terms of pre-independence and moving up, whereas, we want to be emancipated, we want to be a free people. And one of the things is moving forward, then I was always told by many others that, my generation or the generation afterwards has been now going to be responsible for the economic empowerment of the nation. We've moved and we've accomplished a lot economically, I do believe, from 49 years of independence. There's a large amount of Bahamians that have become, wealthier in a greater sense. And I think that's a continuous process. I think it should be done collectively. I'm a finance professional as well, and I look at past experiences, the age-old adage of if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So we look at the Bay Street Boys, we look at the Sunshine Boys. We see these financial groups or these entities or these persons that came together to form entities that pooled their resources and developed an industry and in turn then developed a country. And I think that's one of the key things. A lot of persons may look at the term developing country, but in essence, that's a green light because it shows that the country or a country needs development, and with development comes economic empowerment. There are many viability stuff that is open for our country that may not be seen in the United States or Russia or some first world or developed country, what can then has the potential of being developed here. So I think it's very important in terms of pooling resources, realizing that, hey, this is what we're going to have to do. Because economically, you may not have an individual that may be able to have the seed money to start up capital by themselves. But collectively, I'm almost certain collectively that a group of persons, individuals, both man and women, can come together and put together a cohesive business plan and move our country forward. One of the key things as a financial professional and also serving as chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank, one of the key things that I would want to see is definitely the infusion of Bahamians in the tourism sector in a major way, not just in regards of, tours and stuff like that. I would love to see a serious size hotel fully owned by Bahamians. And I think that's something that we can move forward to, but I think it can be done collectively.
Yeah. Well, we're going to dive into some of the specifics shortly. But let me ask this question here. You mentioned being chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank, but I introduced you as senator. And the Senate is generally, I call it through ignorance, is seen in the Bahamas as just being a rubber stamp, but really and truly, it is intended to be the high office of Parliament, and it should be housed by persons of noble minds, with sober minds, who can keep the government on target with its compass as to the initiatives that it said it would do that the people bought into buy-in, like the Blueprint for Change, etc. And when things are going astray, then the Senate should be the voice to say those things. Now, you as a professional in the Senate today, do you see where you have the opportunity or the facility in order to use your professional skills and attributes to help guide and steer what the policies that the Bahamas are, which will then help you do exactly what you explained the Bahamas Development Bank might be inclined to foster?
Yes, definitely. I do see that in the Senate. One of the great, I would say opportunities that I have is sitting in the Senate is that I get to sit alongside the Minister of Economic Affairs, who is the Minister Michael Arquitas. And so in terms of the wealth of knowledge that I'm able to receive from him and then also get his input on a lot of different matters. As you alluded to, the Senate initially was founded or was referred to still to this day as the upper house. In terms, it should
Right.
have been or is labeled as more of a senior place where more level-headed persons that aren't, I guess, younger to be able to give a more synopsis view on so many different things. And so the Senate still has that. I mean, we have the Attorney General that presently sits in the Senate, and then also we have two ministers that sit in the Senate. And so this is something that's very important. I see it through change. I see it through my financial um, studies that I'm able to
Right.
give viable input. And I think it's very important. The Senate, persons do feel that if the Senate is just a rubber stamp, but I think it's so much more than that. It gives greater insight, and then the Senate is also comprised of independent senators, whereas they're not supposed to be politically biased, but they're supposed to give a nationalistic viewpoint, and I think
Right.
that's very important, and that hasn't been taken, or persons don't feel as if that's been taken seriously, but that is a component that's still in the Senate and something that stands true to this day.
Yes. That's awesome. And so we look forward for more goodies from you and the rest in the Senate, the senators, and particularly from the young crew who are there to make some of the changes so people will take it more seriously than what it might have done in the recent past.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned the chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank. The bank, as I see it on the web pages, is saying that it's a national agency designed to catalyze sustainable economic development. And its purpose, you can elaborate on for us?
Yes, that's no problem. The Bahamas Development Bank was enacted in 1974, whereas the purpose was, as it stated, to develop various economies and industries in the Bahamas. So from 1974, it has done that and has continued to evolve. One of the key things is that a lot of persons may not know about the Bahamas Development Bank is that in turns it's primarily the main funding or catalyst for a lot of mailboats throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas when families and companies want to purchase mailboats, which are very, very important and vital aspects of the family islands. The
Right.
Bahamas Development Bank has played pivotal roles in that over the years. And during my tenure as chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank, the present board saw and finds that it must evolve as well to be on the cutting edge, to be developing in the blue, green, and orange economies. One of the key things is that the orange economy, we have a lot of creatives in our country, and I dare to say, even you, Mr. Notes, you're creative in a sense because the innovative, the foresight ideas to do such a show like this, it shows that these are some of the stuff that has to be tapped into. And that I look at it as a proud young Bahamian right now. I think this is such an amazing time for our country. I look at it from a sports standpoint. Like I've had a basketball coach when I played for St. Anne's, and like I wonder if my coach would have ever fathomed the idea that we have top-notch NBA players in the NBA right now. We have an all-star in Josh Chisholm in Major League Baseball. Like, I'm sure many persons 49 years ago would not have imagined that the Bahamas would be on such great world stages, that we had a top 10 Miss Bahamas last year. And so these are the things that, as a country that gives me so much zeal and such refreshment that, hey, we're growing and we're moving forward. I've heard the narrative sometimes that some persons may feel as if that we're not growing as we should. But I think you have to step back and look at, what we have really accomplished as compared to our other Caribbean counterparts. And I think a lot of persons tend to say, it's very easy to look at the United States and see what they're doing and how they are developing or what they're doing in their economy. But you cannot. That's like comparing apples and oranges, you know.
Right.
And so definitely, that is where we are. And the Bahamas Development Bank is on that cutting edge where we're trying to look at green economies, which is the solar energy, renewable energies. These are the kind of things that we're doing and tapping into now, in this new day.
Yeah, so thank you for those kind words now. So the development bank itself is more than just, because it says bank, right? And so people normally think that's just mean, okay, you go there, you either save your money or you borrow money. So I was told that it does some services for the persons, the clients that it has, beyond just give them loans or whatever. Is that correct?
No, the Bahamas Development Bank provides, primarily we provide loans and funding for industries and businesses throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. In terms of services, we do provide in being consultation in regards
Right.
to developing business plans and stuff like that. We
Okay.
also we're also on the process of looking at how we could even develop the Airbnb aspect, whereas persons in Bahamian, can come
Right.
towards the development bank and to be approved for financing for the development of Airbnbs, either through construction or renovation. So these are the things, anything in regards to expanding of a business, developing an industry or sector, the Bahamas Development Bank is the ideal place. And one of our notable accomplishments so far is our WACX. We provided a very lofty fund, um, in regards to funding for the RWACX project.
So on that same note, then, if say a Buddy Hill or Clay Thompson or the like was wanting to come and invest in the Bahamas and team up with say a 242 elite who is a friend of something to think about here, who has a basketball development skills program, they can approach the Bahamas Development Bank for funding and to be able to do their venture.
Yes, definitely they can. And the Bahamas Development Bank has developed such a very, very informative and very easy process where you can apply online. There's a link where you can go to how to apply. You submit all the relevant information. It goes into a queue, and then our team and personnel will get back to them within 24 hours, let them know what is missing, what is needed, and we could proceed from there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
And so, yes, I think that should open up some eyes to a lot of people because going to a commercial bank these days to ask for funding for things that could help national development is somewhat of a challenge.
Yes.
You know, so that's great. So as a nation, then we have already, like I said, socialized. We sort of politically equalized, and so we need to get ourselves from where we are now e- e- economically to higher levels. Does the bank have a measure as to where they see that we need to move the Bahamas from to? Is there like a percentage wealth index or anything like that that it tracks?
Well, in terms you said in regards to, Pacific sector that you said that we want to target exactly.
No, just in general. I mean, do you have do you track any of these things? Is that a part of
Oh,
your
yes.
mandate to say we want to make, say, okay, 30 more millionaires this year, kind of thing? Whatever. I'm just using random numbers.
Oh, well, I mean, we don't have a we wouldn't say we want to make, say, specific millionaires, but we want to be able to have successful businesses on our books. We've tracked all of our businesses to make sure that they are successful, because one of the key things that we don't want to say just have just loan or giving out bad loans where it's not
Right.
repaid and the businesses fail. We want to be able to make sure that these businesses are profitable and also on the cutting edge. The development bank is more of a risk taker than commercial banks, and that's the purpose of a development bank. Is that we're going
Okay.
to take risky business ventures as compared to any other financial institution that you may find. So that's
Right.
our goal and objective, is that that we want to be able to provide an opportunity for businesses or ventures that may not be funded anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. So how does now the what you do and what the Bahamas Development Bank do help empower people, the Bahamian citizens and those who are friends of the Bahamas, who can apply? Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of empowerment of it, is that we're providing Bahamian businesses and Bahamians with an opportunity to expand. I think that's the biggest thing of all development banks throughout the world, like the Caribbean Development Bank and also the Development Bank of Jamaica, is that we are the institutions that want to empower persons in our country. Whereas, they've been denied. We also give some very competitive rates in terms of interest rates for back payments of the loans. And I
Right.
think that's very important. I think one of the key things is that persons over the years have realized, have lost sight or lost, vision or idea of what the Bahamas Development Bank is all about. And I think that's very important. I think it's one of the greatest things. There are many success stories. BWF, Bahamas Well and Fire, there have been persons that have benefited from funding from the Bahamas Development Bank. And on our website, there's countless, success stories of where, as you can see.
Yeah. Awesome. And so those who can apply to the development bank would be what, micro, small, medium, and size enterprises, big. Do they have a limit? Is there a target?
No, so that's the good thing about the Bahamas Development Bank, right? We don't have a cap or a ceiling, because
Okay.
one of the key things that, we don't, the development bank should not have to put a cap on someone's idea or what they
Right.
want to do. We just be able to say this is something that we think is viable, or if not. We've also worked with other counterparties such as the SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center.
Right.
They're
Right.
able to provide funding and financial advice and business ideas, on how to expand your businesses. And then also the Bahamas Venture Capital Fund. So there's many different avenues, that persons can be able to get assistance from. But there's no cap in regards that we would never tell anybody, say, okay, well, this is the cap. I mean, your idea is your idea. And I don't think anyone should be limited to that.
Yeah. And so when you say there's no ceiling and there's no floor, so a micro business could be somebody like me just pick it up and say, okay, I want to sell Connect. But if I could find a way to do that to cause national development in the process at a higher scale or bigger scale, then the development bank would be, or there has to be. I mean, I know I'm exaggerating a little too far, but
Yeah, no. But I understand the premise what you're trying to get at, and yes, agreed. Like that should not or will not be an issue, and I think that's very important. Like I'll go along on the trend of thought, like you said. You could imagine if you said, okay, you want to sell this canap, and you go into Scotiabank or RBC, they could look at you like you're crazy. But if you turn to how you can factor this to be development for the country and how it can be
right.
crafted out in the niche, the Bahamas Development Bank is the ideal place for such a business idea.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Well, folks, you're listening to something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles, and we have Senator Quinton Lightbourne on with us. He's having little challenges with some of his power, so we just have his voice at this time. Hopefully, that will come back on live before. So before we go to the break, Senator, question is that around election time, there's always a lot of talk about what we could do, what we can do, and the like. And say, are we ready to get some of this wealth? Is it that the items that is highlighted on the blueprint for change, are they materializing?
Yes, so definitely, some of the items on the blueprint for change are definitely materializing. One of the key things is, in terms of wealth or generating wealth or generational wealth, is the owning of your property and land.
Right.
Present administration has already approved the construction of about 500, close to 500 homes. I can tell you as a young Bahamian, being able to access the land and property is, I mean, very difficult and out of reach for many. And I think that's
Right.
very important. And the government has seen the importance of being able to provide these opportunities and putting these stuff in place for Bahamians. And I think that's a crucial part of economic empowerment and wealth, because if you own a property in turns, that provides you with leverage, collateral, in terms if you have business ideas and stuff that you want to make an investment in. And I think that's one of the key things in terms when you talk about economic empowerment. Also moving forward, the government right now, in terms of legislation in regards to the digital assets and also the carbon credit market, which is very important and transformative moving forward. As you saw, FTX and the cryptocurrency conferences that's already taken place in our country, is that these are going to be some of the things that the Bahamas has to be on the cutting edge. And I think
Right.
that's very important and vital for our future. And so the Blueprint for Change has had so many things so far. And keep in mind, I always tell persons, within 9 months, you're seeing so much things that have happened in 9 months in terms of the economy. And I'm just, I'm looking forward for the rest of the 10 years as well.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. All right. So, Madam Producer, we're going to take the break now. And you've been listening to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. And we're here with Senator Lightbourne, and we'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
Behind every scoop, flick, and savor is a smile and memory being made or reminisced. Whether you're at work, out with family on a Sunday, or have friends visiting, flavor will meet expectations in our 32-ounce container for only $10 if you're having a special event as well. Exotic flavors ranging from soursop to Guinness is definitely worthwhile.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. We're here this evening with Senator Quinton C. Lightbourne, and we're here talking about how we can go to empower our youth in particular, because that's what we focus on this show, is in helping the youth understand what it is that is done differently out there than what they see in the traditional narrative, in the national narrative, so that they can have ideas and stretch their minds to go and dabble into something different that might be more akin to their own personality. So welcome back, Senator.
Yes, thank you once again.
Good to see you on live now. The people, Bahamian people like to see and touch you,
Oh yeah, yes sir.
That go way back, yeah. So we were talking about the blueprint just now, and some of the things that you highlighted in terms of what was already materializing and so forth. And I'm sure that there's a number more in there, because like you mentioned, there's only 9 months, 10 months gone so far. And things are already materializing where we could actually touch and feel and be impacted by it, because a lot of times we talk about the, for example, not to go down a political road, but partisan-wise, the PLP has generally been an institution dominant organization, whereas the FNM, as I see it, was normally infrastructure dominant organization in terms of things. And so as we look at the things moving forward now, tell us in terms of the blueprint for change and the initiatives that are available, how can people tap into creating spaces for themselves in following the blueprint and the way everything is rolling out? How do they stay in tune, and how do they then formulate so that they come to the development bank, etc., to capitalize and generate this wealth?
Okay, that's good. That's one of the key things about the blueprint is that they also want to develop Bahamas Invest. I worked at the Bahamas Investment Authority, whereas Bahamas Investment Authority was specifically, to help facilitate foreign direct investments into the country. But Bahamas Invest is pretty much in the premature stages of already been strategically done, headed by the Director of Investment, Miss Felicia Woods Hannah. And so she's been able to put together a team of financial professionals to help Bahamian and local investments, as what I alluded to earlier, and being able to facilitate these stuff. In terms, so far, the budget that has just been passed, $50 million has been allocated towards the development of small businesses throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And this is pretty much by and large something that's going to be split between a few agencies, such as the Small Business Development Center, the Bahamas Development Bank, the Venture Capital Fund, BAIC. All of those institutions are going to be able to have access to this $50 million to provide business incentives on business acumen ideas for various sectors. One of the key things in terms of the blueprint is that, the reduction of value-added tax to 10%, something that has been talked about. Some of the things that a lot of persons, the lack of restrictions from COVID-19, free masks, free COVID tests. And these are some of the things that, that the present administration campaigned on and have already delivered such things. And so these are some of the things that as we continue to move forward, that there's going to be so much more in place. But I think the access to the $50 million is going to be cutting edge, because this is going to allow a lot of businesses an opportunity to get some startups. Also at the Bahamas Development Bank, we had 2 grant initiatives within the first 6 months. One of the key things that we did the Orange Economy grants, where we awarded 26 Bahamians, persons that had creative ideas, which in terms of dance, theater, TV shows, where they were awarded MacBook Pros, where they can develop their content and be able to put it on a world-class level. And then also we did a Family Island grant program, where we provided grants of between $2,500 to $3,000 to existing businesses in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because a lot of the family islands have always seemed to have been forgotten. And so we want to, as the Bahamas Development Bank, put incentives and put stuff in place to ensure that these family islands aren't forgotten in terms of the economic and development process of the Bahamas.
Yes, good. So that sounds like a lot of stuff happening. Now, in terms of the people themselves, and once they get tapped into these things, then help them understand why it's important to want to seek out these initiatives and get engaged in them, so that they can create that revenue back for themselves. What will that do for their quality of life?
Definitely. I think, the quality of life will definitely enhance. It's also a sense of, empowerment that, that you've been able to develop a successful business, that you're not relying primarily on one source of income, is that you're going to be able to develop yourself, develop your country, develop your family. And so these are things that just helps with the overall morale of an individual. As you even alluded to, historically, persons have always labeled the Progressive Liberal Party as a party that's been more for the people, and that has been the case with the social movement. But now the importance of economic empowerment is more prevalent than it has ever been. And I think we're just on the precipice right now of being able to ensure that a lot of Bahamians are able to tap into what we have to provide in terms of the sports in paradise, in terms of so many in terms of digital assets industry. These are some of the things that we want to develop moving forward.
Right. And you mentioned those things, but before we said, folks out there, please ask your questions, post it online, the questions, and we'll endeavor to ask this brain box in front of me, the questions as we can. The young fellow senator himself, who I believe has a wealth of knowledge in his head, just posting to come out and find an avenue to be able to be helpful to our society. And so when we look at the machinery of wanting to get more wealth, being able to tap into it, achieve these activities, for the ordinary man on the street who has already for many decades gone to the banks, they're turning away and the like, how do we encourage them to make the step and to be creative again compared to, what's the word I'm looking for? To be ambitious enough to take the steps to actually approach the bank? Is there incentives or programs that you have?
Yeah. So one of the key things that we do is that we have an open door policy, where persons can come in. One of the key things that you stated for persons that may feel that way is that to never give up. The worst any institution can tell you is no. That's nothing else. There's nothing harsh about that. It's just turns of ways that you can make your plan even better. And we have a team of professionals that will be able to assist you with your business plan writing to see how we can factor in a lot of these stuff to improve your business plan and move ahead. I think that's key. And so, we're not a place where you're going to get turned away. We're going to try our best to help you, to tell you what is needed, what all financials are needed, how you're going to develop this business plan, what are your projections. And that's something that's very important.
Yeah, and so another one would be that people would say is, the foreigners always get favoritism. Is the development bank restricted to lend money only to Bahamians, or they lend money to both?
Yes. So the Bahamas Development Bank is strictly and solely for Bahamians. That's the funding for the national bank is for Bahamians and for Bahamians only.
Yeah. So that means that really and truly tomorrow your front door should be full.
Oh, well,
People just coming.
just be more.
Yeah. Yes. Because I know back in the earlier days, I had a co-worker. His dad used to run the Daybreak, a mailboat, and they were always at the development bank doing new initiatives and the like. So you always seem to have an open door process to all of this. So help us to understand now in terms of small men. And notice I always keep going to small men. I think the bigger companies tend to have a more mature, more knowledge of how the systems work than a lot of the small men who might not, and particularly the micro businesses and so forth. When we look at what they're doing or what they would like to do, is there an avenue that will help them, I guess, matchmake, fill the void of them having the ideas in their head and then formulate it into something that can really become viable, because you used the word viable at the beginning, and then either through yourselves or through the other agencies that you mentioned, the SBDCs, etc., and all of those, come up with solutions that can help them empower themselves and grow our economy and their wealth as a whole.
Yeah. So the purpose of the Bahamas Development Bank has always been, we want to help all, the small man. I remember stories when I was much younger, but the Bahamas Development Bank in terms of developing the fishing industry. A lot of
Right.
fishermen in terms of their boats and seed money have come from the Bahamas Development Bank. So it's been something that, has not just starting now. The Bahamas Development Bank has shown its history in being able to provide funding and help for persons or so more or less say the small mind. And so that's going to continue to evolve. But one of the key things in terms of being innovative now and moving forward, whereas, okay, yes, we know the importance and need for fishermen, but what about a parking house, a whole processing center? Those are the things that that okay, that now we gotta look at these stuff to move the country forward. That we're not just gonna just want to be fishermen. The same thing, like I said, as a millennial Bahamian, yes, we have to work in the hotel, but I think we're now on the cusp of now owning a hotel, and that we are now the owners of a hotel and moving forward. And so that comes with the innovative mindset in terms of being viable. And I think it's very viable. It's just in terms of taking that risk. And that's very important.
Yeah. And so we've heard on the show recently where a person would say that somebody might be, I think it's when I had Cassius Stewart on the show, and we're talking about more of this development and being creative. And they're saying that some people just have the technical knowledge or the creative skill, but they might not have the management skill and all of those other aspects to run a business itself. So, we tend to want to just work for somebody in these areas. But from all of these agencies that are out there, from your professional point of view, how do we synergize all of these so that the young person who has all of these bright ideas and energy in their head can formulate it into something that they can actually make happen?
Okay. So you said you started the question that I think is, very, very important, is that someone may have a business idea, but they may not know how to go or make it to fruition. And I think
Right.
that's possibly a challenge for a lot of persons, not just limited to the Bahamas, but globally. The thing is then also how you're going to now hone into or tap into this. And I think financial institutions or persons, they can give advice and try to say what can and cannot be done. But I still ultimately the success or failure of a business is up to the individual. You know, Financial institutions, banks or whatever, they can only buy in or say, okay, I think that you have a great product or a great idea. But it's up to
Right.
that individual himself to push it forward. Now, if he or she does not have that in him, then the idea may not see its greatest potential. And so that's
Right.
very important. And so that is why it comes with the skills that SBDC provides, where it gives you business planning, financial planning and business plan workshops, where they're able to try to hone and show you how to get these things done. So when you do get sufficient funding, that you're able
Right.
to proceed and able to maximize your business. And I think that's a very key point that some persons miss, because we've I'm sure both of us, me and you, have heard of countless or great ideas, but in terms of executing, persons just haven't been able to execute, and that lies solely on the individual, not on anybody else, because it's your idea, something that you want to see done. It's your responsibility to push forward and make it a reality.
Right. But I mean, that's a part of our national growth also, right? I mean, we're only 49 years going on 50. Most of these countries that we compare ourselves to is 200 plus, 300, whatever years. And so
Yes.
they're well mature. And so we have to uplift our people. And as we say, as leaders, you have to bring them along. Because if we break off running, thinking we're doing something and look around and nobody's there, then we're not leading anybody. Right?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, in terms of all of these facilities, how do we then measure our success in this process of uplifting people?
Yeah. So I think the agencies are out there, are in place to provide the help. Like I said, BAIC has just had a workshop in Auckland and Crooked Island over the weekend, over Independence weekend. SBDC has been doing seminars, even the Bahamas Development Bank. It's like that's the responsibility of these agencies as well, to promote it and market it, just like what I'm doing right now in the show, to let
Right.
persons or more Bahamians to know that these stuff are out there for them. I remember when I was trying to go off to school, that I heard about the scholarship or scholarships that were available, but I didn't know much about, but I just heard it vaguely. But then my
Right.
persistence was like, I'm going to the Ministry of Education. I'm going to find out what is the readily available or what I'm eligible for and how I can be able to, excel and improve myself. And I think that's very important. But the local agencies have been doing, in my opinion, a good part, and they're continuing to do that to get the word out there, to be able to help and facilitate. And I think, with this disbursement of $50 million for all the small businesses, sorry, all the small agencies, that is going to even expand the reach to let them persons know that, hey, this is what is available and accessible for Bahamians.
Okay. And so now a more important question for me would be now is we have these ideas in my head. The other agencies have me formulate it into a business plan and the like. When I come to the bank to approach you in the organization, what's the attitude or the posture or the posture that I come to you with that will give the best response from you? So the most favorable response.
No, I mean, I can't. The most favorable response is once you have a well planned out business plan, projected financials, and you have all the information that's submitted. Once it's submitted, it's deliberated, and if our credit team, if you feel as if it's viable, once whatever collateral or capital or small cash injection is needed, then we can move forward. It just depends on the plan itself. If the plan is legitimate, the Bahamas Development Bank has historically not turned down a plan just because they just didn't think, that once it's viability
Right.
in the plan or idea, I see no objection in terms of how best it can be funded. And if the funding is there from the Bahamas Development Bank and the business is viable, I don't see any objection.
Awesome. So basically, what you're saying then is the predominant factor would be in terms of whether the bank thinks it's going to be viable from a financial point of view, more so than anything else.
Yeah, it's got to be a profitable business, because if the bank is lending or loaning money, we want to be able that we can secure the money that we've loaned out back. And so that's the primary purpose right there.
Yes, awesome. So let me ask you this question before we come to one or two other things here. In terms of the businesses that are going to come forward, what would be the next things that the actual IDBD, Bahamas Development Bank, is going to be venturing into that they could probably aspire to want to touch on to?
Yeah, so in terms
Is
of
there, go
sorry.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, one of the key things is that we want to develop, green initiatives and green, solar farms in terms of how we're going to be able to develop solar businesses, renewable businesses. These are some of the things, agro businesses. These are some of the things that's going to be more of a primary focus, because that's key. We want to make sure that we develop these new and emerging markets and new industries, because in order to take our country even forward or more
Right.
forward, is that those are the type of businesses and initiatives that we have to play a major part in.
Yeah. Awesome. So, folks, there's a lot of things out there on the table. If you haven't had it, take a look at what's happening in the news, what ministers those speak of a lot of those things. If you tune into those, then we will see the avenues that you have opportunities in order to create a niche for yourself. And as Senator Lightbourne is saying, chairman of Bahamas Development Bank, that once you put together your plan and it's viable, then they almost have an unlimited amount of money to lend you. So
I would say there's a limit.
yeah, I know. Cool. Well, Senator, I know we have a special event tonight with the Prime Minister's presentation, and you will have to run off to that and so forth. But we'd like to thank you for being here with us on something to think about. But before you go, if there's anything that you would like to say to the general public.
Yeah, I just would like to say, first I'd like to say to you, like, initiatives and shows like this is very important for the Bahamas. I don't take these opportunities lightly, because the information that's going to be dispersed to the Bahamian public, like as you stated, as your show is named, something to think about. These are some of the things that Bahamians need to think about, to realize that, hey, these opportunities are out there, and this is information that that no one can take from you once it's given out. And I would like to say, as a Bahamian and celebrating 49th independence, it's a privilege. It's an honor to be a Bahamian, and I thank the Lord every day for life, health, and strength, and also I thank Him for being a Bahamian. And I think as we move forward, as we continue to enhance and develop our country, let us continue to be our brother's keeper and uplift everyone. And that's the only way we can continuously progress as a nation, is if we uplift and help everyone along the way.
Yes, and we thank you kindly for once again for taking the time to be with us, even though you had a very busy schedule and so forth. And hopefully we'll be able to bring you back at some later time when we have a whole wealth of people who we can show maybe some great things that they have done as a result of tapping into the new initiatives that you're putting on the table. All the best. Look forward to success for the Bahamas to grow from leaps and bounds. And maybe my $100 billion economy will someday become a reality.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you kindly. Yes.
Thank you.
So, folks, you're listening to something to think about or watching something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. And we're here having this beautiful conversation. We hope that you found value in it and that you were able to now pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where you're going to go from here. Subscribe, like, follow, share, and watch more of the videos. And we'll be back next week with another exciting guest. Thank you kindly all, Madam Producer, everybody on Facebook, YouTube. Enjoy.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative 242